6:09. Leanne, do we have minutes from the last meeting that we had that we need to approve?
Yeah, it was sent, but we actually missed a meeting last time, so September, August, what was that?
I believe, right?
Yeah, we spaced out and missed a meeting, so it's really from like 4 months ago. So yeah, you should have those minutes.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to take a look at those minutes?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the minutes with any necessary changes.
Okay, any
I'll
changes?
second
Very
No.
good. Approval of minutes passes. New business, the recreation facilities update.
Yeah, I guess I can give some update here. This fall and end of summer, we completed a few projects at the Jennings football field. We got the light post moved in cooperation with Norwich Youth Football League and the NPU. They want to expand that field to 100 yards. And then we also were all working together to get the goalpost moved back to expand their field. The crew took the fences out, added loom and seed, and now they have a larger field to play on this fall. So that project got finished up. This fall, we're working on Dickaman. The infield needs a lot of work. It gets a lot of play through spring and summer. So they're doing some work on Dickaman. And then otherwise,
Cheryl,
Yes.
excuse me for 1 second. In Dickaman on the infield, like on the grass part or the dirt part or both?
well, in front of the dugouts, it was all muddy swamp. So they planted grass and seed. They
Okay,
planted seed to grow the grass. So that got a little beat up because the grass never took. So they're doing that again. And then the pathways, from the dugout to when you're going to go back,
yeah,
those were all crooked like this. So the crew's going to, fix those, make them straight pathways. And then a lot of the dugout grass from just players standing in the same spot. They're, and the mound needs some work. So they're adding clay to that. And there's a hump going into the third base line with just the clay and the grass mounded up from storms. So they're flattening that out, that kind of
okay.
work.
I just have a question. Other than NFA, who uses Dickerman Field? Is there another baseball, like a Babe Ruth or I don't know, someone
Yeah.
else use that field?
There's the Legion team, and
American
then,
Legion?
local youth groups, local high school groups, and then some AAU teams will use it too.
Okay.
So there's some tournaments that get run there on the weekends. And then at Moriarty, we have 2 high school regulation fields, so sometimes we'll run tournaments on both fields.
Okay.
There's usually every weekend something going on there through the summer. And then the crew this fall, it's prepping the Fontaine soccer fields and all the youth group fields for soccer, some lacrosse. So those are the maintenance type updates.
Very good.
Yeah.
Summer update?
We had a really good summer, probably my largest ever in terms of volume and of children in the programs and the amount of programs we offered. We had a really good summer camp. We averaged about 94 kids a week, which we didn't anticipate, to be honest. And then we partnered with Board of Ed to help them run their summer enrichment, like summer school. So every afternoon for 5 weeks, we were in 4 or 5 of the schools, and that had almost 600 kids in that program. And then at the end of the summer, we partnered with Board of Ed to run a 2-week free camp. So that was an addition, and there was 100 kids each in those programs. So we had over 1,000 kids coming to our camps and programs this summer. So it was really busy. And then we ran our nighttime programs, and then we rented fields out. And then we had the beach. The beach went really well. It was as you all know, a different kind of weather summer. So a lot of rain and on some of the key weekends. So participation was down, maybe about 800 people. But it's really, I think, a weather related issue, but steady flow at the beach.
If I may, I got to one of the night flight games.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I saw about a game and a half there, and the job that Leonard Miller does with that is unreal.
He's
That
good.
is a great thing that we have in our community for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm so happy this year. It was, last year with the height of COVID and everything, it was really tricky because he does do such a great job and it draws such a big crowd, but there were so many more restrictions last year that this year, I think things were a little bit easier. I just want to touch on a couple of things that Cheryl said. We were really afraid we were going to lose revenue with the camps this year because the schools offered this free program, but we were able to partner with them and do some things in the afternoon. And actually, Cheryl, I think, if they pay the bill, we're going to make some good money on that, which is really a benefit to the rec department. At the beach, we actually had Griffin Health come up and do some vaccination clinics. A lot of people didn't take advantage of it, but we thought that was a good site to have free vaccination for people because it does draw some crowds and, it's outside and they set up a tent. And I thought that was really good too. And yeah, I think you're right with night flight. Really good for our community. A lot of different activities that I think they're starting to organize for the community over there. And we've done some improvements and it looks like we're going to be doing some more improvements over there.
Very good.
We just had really good numbers, like our normal soccer camp, maybe, had a dozen people. This year we had wait lists. The tennis camp was filled at max. So a lot more people, I think, post-COVID wanted their kids active and out. So we just had a lot more volume of people coming in, which was great.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Item number 4, old business. The ARPA funding, how is that going?
Leanne, do you want to take this or?
Sure. And let me bring up my spreadsheet. And Darrell was instrumental in getting the rec department even more money. So I was just going over some numbers. So in general, okay, Norwich Human Services, I think between all of our different divisions is getting about a little bit over $3.5 million. So the downtown Adult and Family Services is able to do things like rent and mortgage assistance, health improvements for disenfranchised neighborhoods, some mental health improvements, employment supports, and things like that to help out the community. Under the portion that was given to Norwich Human Services, we designated money for the Armstrong tennis courts, which will be $350,000 for the Armstrong tennis courts. We have $100,000 in capital improvement, so that's a total of $450,000 to complete that project. Darrell suggested $130,000 for Jenkins Parks improvements, and I'll let Darrell talk about what he's hoping can be done there. We got $100,000 to replace the playscape at Greenville Playground, and we got $150,000 to do a splash pad. And then Tuesday night, was it last Tuesday, the 7th, more money was added. So there is $800,000 for communities, schools as community centers. And there wasn't a lot of detail about how that $800,000 could be spent, but specifically $85,000 of it is to be used for 2 to 3 part-time program assistants on nights and weekends. So my department had written a beautiful community center plan using schools as community centers because we know it's such a big effort to try to get a standalone building as a community center. Do we think we need a standalone center? Yes, we do. Was this an interim step in between a real center and what could be done now. We've always thought, I think a lot of us have always thought that the schools are underutilized. They could be used more on nights and weekends. That's where families are used to going. That's where there's gyms and equipment and, arts and craft supplies and where we could have breakout classrooms. Our community center plan engage people like, adult education and ESL classes and job training programs and mental health supports and a lot of programs from our youth and family services, as well as a lot of rec program and open gym space and everything like that. So $800,000 was put aside for that, with some staffing for us to be able to do that on nights and weekends. It was also mentioned that some of the money that went to the police department, which I think was $300,000, it says for them to be ambassadors in neighborhoods and community centers after hours in school. So again, when we wrote our plan, we included a lot of different people in the community in that, groups like Night Flight, groups like Rose City United, groups like what Suki runs down there on Franklin Street. So we had that. So that 800,000 we haven't totally parsed out yet. And again, I'll turn it over to Darrell in a second. And then there was a $500,000 allotment for neighborhood revitalization efforts. And that was to engage established neighborhood revitalization zones to determine priorities of neighborhoods, host meetings with various neighborhoods to determine needs of the area. So what we are proposing there is to have a community engagement specialist that goes to these revitalization zones and does exactly that, talks to them, see what the needs are. The needs could be recreation needs. Maybe they say our playscape stinks. Our courts need to be resurfaced. It could be that maybe they say we have a big drug problem in our neighborhood and we need to get on top of that, or there's a lot of blight and we, do things to do that. It's not only to listen, but to improve and engage and then beautify different neighborhoods. So maybe there's a, mural project on the side of a wall that we organize or something like that. But I'll stop there because Darrell really was instrumental in suggesting a lot of these programs and getting that passed through the council. So Darrell, you wanna fill in where I missed things?
I think you hit most of the high points of why we put this money forward. When looking at the plan, the biggest part that has been affected through COVID has been recreation. And as I said on the council floor, the meeting went to almost 1 a.m. But one of the biggest pieces that I said is when you look at capital and investments in the city, recreation as a whole has been underserved in these last decade or so. But the most important piece is, that I told them is we get up there championing kids when they do great things, when they represent the city, but we don't put our money where our mouth is. So part of it is listening to what people have said, knowing the information we have from the budget process, putting money aside. One of the questions that was asked, well, why such a large amount? And I said, you can never give enough money to our kids and families. So that is the reason I put 800,000 aside. Is this is not necessarily an amount that has to be used in 1 year, as the money has a life until 2024. So this is, in my eyes, is the first allotment of 2, because I believe in the next round of money there should be more money put aside for things to continue to expand. So the 800,000, knowing that it would take more than a year to build a community center, allows us to utilize buildings and space that we have now to function in those ways. So part of it also will, like I explained to my colleagues, for example, the Night Flight wants to run a winter season. Instead of them having to incur all the costs, they're also paying registration. It allows for a partnership to develop where some of these organizations that would provide services in the community can partner with the city to provide and expand the opportunity to more kids. But also that has been one of the biggest hangups for some nonprofits, the large cost to rent facilities for a long haul. So this is a way to kind of help with some of those things. But also, as Leanne stated, this will help some of the other divisions. They can host teen nights and all sorts of things through this money. But it allows for things for families and youth to do in the city. And it solves three problems: things for kids to do, the transportation issue that we heard numerous times, and the third piece being more partnerships, and us as a city investing dollars in building partnerships. As far as Jenkins, I am open to anything. I think for me, the biggest piece is I know they have money already set aside for a second basketball court that is going to be constructed as well. The 130,000 really focuses on changing the landscape of the softball field into more of a soccer or multi-purpose field. And then I think they have a tennis court area over there, turning that into a possible multi-purpose space as well. But so many things go on up there. It's a corridor to economic development. We have night flight and other things up there. People are coming into our city, downtown and on the west side, and that park deserves to be beautified so that it can stand out just like any other part of the city. So that, of course, through meetings and conversations with the Jenkins family, possibly Night Flight and other individuals, I think whatever plans can be done to kind of spruce it up, it would be amazing. But I wanted to give enough money, knowing construction costs are a little higher. I wanted to give enough money to be able to get a lot of the projects and the ideas done. And then with the police department, I know they talked about, some of the boating classes and swimming and all these other things. So they are also connected, not only with their 300,000, they may partner with the rec department to possibly run some of those programs in some of the schools, so a lot of this is going to be some partnerships between multiple departments and organizations. I think Leanne hit the nail on the head with one of the other concepts, and the reason we did not add the community specialist in the 800,000 is one of the things I had suggested to the city manager was putting it under the community development money for 500,000 for neighborhoods. It has a better purpose, and that's an area where it can also get an additional allotment of money come next year. But I think it's a perfect place for it to start. I know we've been talking about program assistance and help in the rec department, and I didn't want to throw more programs on you and not give you the money for staffing. So part of it is the 85,000 is a starting point. I think the conversation, as I've said to other people, we as a city council have to sit down and really think about the investments we make and where we put money each year for not just capital, but also staffing. So that's another conversation, but this buys us some time to have that conversation. But all in all, I made a valid point that if we can put millions of dollars into tourism and economic development, we can put that same amount of money in investment in our kids, families, and recreation. So I did my part in holding true to my word of sprucing up recreation. And this is just the first round of suggestions. There are many other things that Leanne gave us a nice list that should be considered. We have about $14.4 million next year. And there is still some money that has not been assigned yet or allocated. But I would expect more money to go towards her divisions because they have a huger impact than some of the other areas that were being suggested. So,
Okay, a couple of quick questions.
Mhm.
So the community coordinator wasn't part of it. I know that was something I spoke to and wrote about. So that's not.
so
still
it
not-
wasn't. So it was not something that I outright suggested had to be definitively used for a certain allotment, I left it so that they could kind of decide where they want to put the position.
Yeah. That we're saying the same thing, Julie. The community engagement specialist is the community coordinator.
Correct.
It's the same thing. So what you advocated for, we got money for.
Oh, you did. Okay, good. Second thing, tennis at Jenkins. You're not getting rid of those courts at Jenkins.
No, what I think it is making, kind of like you're doing with the Armstrong courts, making it a surface that could be used for other things as well. So
Okay.
being a tennis court, but also the surface being something that we can maintain.
Okay. And what you mentioned something about a transportation issue. What is that about?
So when we do most, how can I say it? So if there was to be rec events at Kelly Middle School, for example, in the evening time, the seat bus stops running at a certain time.
Right.
So if families wanted to make their way to those programs in the evening time, during the week, it would be a tough sell for them to be involved. So with the concept of keeping Waquanic open, keeping veterans open, keeping teachers, all the different schools open, depending on what the programs are, but putting the programs in those neighborhoods, it alleviates us having to solve a huge transportation issue that we have.
Right. Okay. The other thing, I don't know how much, but one of the things when we were on that community center committee back in years ago, like I said before, we did, like you've mentioned, we were underutilizing the schools and the facilities we already had. One of the things, and a splash pad is great, but an aqua center, I mean, that benefits, and I would love to be able to go to exercise in a warm pool, as many other seniors would love to do, teach kids how to swim, and then at that point, we were actually talking about making it so that you could actually have it big enough so you could draw in like AAU tournaments and whatever swimming thing. That would be my goal if we could ever get to it, but I'm not sure if that would be down the road or whatever.
So
But an aqua center.
So I would say that is one of the high points for me next spring when we have the discussion on the second allotment of $14.4 million is setting money aside for a possible aqua center. It's something I believe the mayor and others support, and I think it has many benefits other than just the swimming piece, but it allows us to expand the things we have. So definitely, I know we're working on doing research now so that time comes, we can have a conversation on the honest cost.
And my last question would be, what's the status of the YMCA? And are they going to tear it down? Because I mean, there's 2 pools in that building. And I'm sure it's a wreck. It's been a mess over time, but what's the status with that? Just out of curiosity.
So right now it is going through an environmental assessment. So seeing what the environmental analysis is before they make any steps on recommendations for renovation, demolition, seeing what those things are. The other part is to be known back, I believe in 2010 or 2011, there was a designation by FEMA for the back side of the building to be in a floodway. So that's the other reason that this is being assessed, because even if you did reopen the building, there would be some of those things that we would have to address. So it's going through an analysis, and then that report would come to the city council before anything else is done.
Julie,
Okay.
the pools in there have been destroyed.
Okay.
People have broken in. I know for a fact that it would be cheaper to build a new aquatic center than to try to revitalize the YMCA at this point. The roofs there's 9 different roofs. 2 was the heating system is defunct, and it would take a lot to get that up. And then the pools were totally and completely trashed. So it's not really something that's an easy fix to, just reopen.
And I just want to make a comment about the aquatic center. I was an aquatic director for 5-6 years, so I have experience. Julie, you need 2 pools. If you want a warm pool for seniors, it's completely different than the one you rent out to athletic competitive teams.
Oh, I know that. Yes, yes, yes.
Those
I
are
know that.
cold. Those are cold temperatures
Right.
that teams cannot swim in the warm pools if you want 90 and above. So I'm just putting it out there, the plan has to have 2 pools
Yeah.
if you need
Yes,
a
plan- Our
we
plan
visited,
Our
we
plan, our-
visited, Manchester, the one up by Stores or
yeah,
someplace.
Manchester, yep,
Yeah, Manchester, they had the different pools and
Yeah.
it was but that they also had different rooms, but
right.
to me, I would think the seniors, I don't even know, or if off from the senior center, put one pool over by that way, I think seniors would welcome something like that,
Of course.
be able to do their exercises and be in a warm pool and then build another pool for,
Yeah.
the other activities in the youth or whatever, open swims, competitions or whatever. And I believe you can, if you did make it, I think when we talked about this, if you made it so it was AAU or whatever competitiveness
Yep.
up to their standards, you would have people come in because there's not many around here in Connecticut.
No,
So you would draw all those competitions.
Julie, if you remember when we wrote our plan, Julie was on the same committee I was on. That's exactly what it was. It was 2 separate pools. One was Olympic size to do the AAU meets. One was a therapeutic pool that had different temperatures. And then it was poised by the senior center because then you could use the Kelly gym. You could use the senior center we talked about having birthday parties over at the senior center and then walking the kids over to swim. And, that was the area we thought everything was up there already. Tennis courts, basketball courts, just to make that like a complex, a whole complex. And Darrell, I don't know if you remember, you weren't on the council, but we had gotten approved $37,000 to do the site survey at one council meeting, and the very next council meeting, they took that money away. So it just stalled. But our charge was to find city-owned property, so the city didn't have to buy property, and to see what we needed in the community. We did all these surveys and where it would be best placed, and we did all that work. And I would say we don't reinvent the wheel. We just go with that plan and start doing the surveys. That would be the most expedient way to get this done.
And that could be the facility for the NFA swim teams also.
Absolutely.
They were going to be part of that equation at some point. Yes, Leanne?
Yes. John Ivina was on that committee too. I mean,
Correct.
so many people we spent years, 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I've been reading all of those studies because I will tell you, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I'm actually fortunate. My referee game this week is down in East Lyme. So I'm going a little early to talk to them about their aquatic center. But I think it's a no-brainer. Like you said, splash pads are one thing, but it's also we've got the means this time around to get some things done that are once in a lifetime that are going to have a huge impact on this community. And an aquatic center is a win for everyone. Kids, adults, seniors, everyone. So that is for
Local
me.
businesses, if you're doing, and that's what we mentioned, if you're drawing in all these people for these, there aren't many of these around.
Correct.
And if you have this market where you can bring people into the city, that just boosts all your businesses, hotels, eateries, whatever.
Correct.
So
it is. I will say for me, it is one of my top 2 items proposed in the spring. So you got my full support. I like with the recreation money that I was able to get supported this time around. I'm all about expanding the opportunity. So it will be my top priority.
Darrell,
great. I would like to, I was just going to say, I would like for once, I hate to tell you in my career how many committees I've been on, and you spend time and hours and then nothing comes out of it. I would love for one committee I served on that maybe something finally comes out of it, because I'm kind of a little when I think about all that time and energy I spent on all these other committees. There were a
Absolutely.
couple of others, let me tell you, back in the day in my education, but very few. And that many of them, after a couple of years, whatever we did got turned over. So it would be very nice just to feel that you spent some time and it was fruitful and worthwhile.
It would
Darrell,
definitely be.
know the
good time.
deadline for the proposals for the next lump of money? Is there-
So I think, well, I don't mark my words, but I believe one of the things that I'm hoping that they'll do this time that is different is as the proposals come in, having some more community oriented workshops. I don't want us to wait until the spring. We should start developing how we want to see the money spent now, so that come spring, as we're allocating money, some of this work can get done and get started right away and not have to wait 6 to 8 months down the road. So that's just my take, and that's something that I will recommend.
Okay.
Great job, Darrell, with all that ARPA stuff. Thanks.
No problem.
Other business? Does anyone have any?
Oh, well, wait, Leanne, we
No.
didn't, the facility maintainer got funded too, correct?
Yeah, we,
In the master plan.
yep, that too is going to come out of the community development money.
That
Community-
is awesome. Are we confident that we'll be able to find someone that will be able to work well in that position? You know, based on what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, the full-time positions, we get good candidates for.
Oh, okay.
Seasonal, we struggle with the seasonals. But the full-time should be fine.
Very good. So no other business. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Actually, if we could pause for 1 second, I'm sorry, jumped the gun here. Do we know when our next meeting is?
September,
2 months from now.
November 3rd, Wednesday in November, which is November 17th.
Okay. All right. A second for the motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Beautiful. You guys have a great evening. Nice work. Thank you. It's good to see everyone.
Nice
You
seeing you all.
too. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.